Mind Your Subconscious is the podcast that provides you with techniques and knowledge about your subconscious mind, the part of your brain that lets you control your ego and create an extraordinary reality with your thoughts. We invite meditation, hypnosis, NLP, EFT, and other experts to help you master the most powerful part of your brain. Your host is Jennifer Schlüter, who quit her job as managing editor of 22 newspapers to travel the world and work online just after one hypnosis session. A nomad ever since 2016, Jennifer is now a certified hypnotist and helps people transform their dreams into reality. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mind Your Subconscious. Today we have a guest that I met in real life for the first time in August last year. And since then, she has transformed her life all by the power of her own thoughts. She lives by what she preaches. She shares everything on social media, how she manifested her boyfriend, her apartment, the life that she's living right now. She can work from anywhere in the world. She works at the most beautiful locations. She can afford anything that she wants. And she's just a dope human being. I really love how she shares the stories and her truth. And I wanted to bring her on today to speak about how you can also manifest and create the life of your dreams with your thoughts. So welcome today's guest, Stefan Tora. Hey everyone, we are here with Stefan Tora. And Steph, just go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
So my name is Stefan Tora. I'm a psychic business empowerment coach. And what I do is I basically help people create their dream lives or dream businesses or a combination of both things.
And how have you come to do that?
Yeah, it's been a really long journey. It feels that way to me. But basically, I started out as a health coach. I'm very passionate about healthy food and lifestyle. And after trying to succeed as a health coach and even hiring a business coach, I formed part of a business coaching program and doing all the things that I was told to do as far as marketing and funnels and those kinds of things. I still wasn't really making any money from my business. And eventually I got on the path of spirituality. And as I dove deeper into that and started addressing a lot of emotional past stuff that I wasn't aware were affecting me, my energy started shifting and I started attracting people all of a sudden. And then I got deeper into mindset work. The more I did that, the more financial success I had, and so on and so forth. So I just kept diving deeper into spirituality, and it just eventually became this thing where I use my intuitive, spiritual, psychic abilities and knowledge to help people really be able to release the things that they have inside of themselves in terms of emotions and limiting beliefs to be able to create what they want.
Awesome. And tell us how you came to spirituality, so to say. Like what changed? What happened? What did you read? What's happened there?
So I kind of started tapping into spirituality maybe back in 2012, I believe. I started watching documentaries and I started watching something about like Louise Hay talking about like the power of thoughts and some kind of other documentaries around quantum physics and energy and other kind of like metaphysical type things. And that kind of opened up my mind to it. But over the years, I, kind of like moved myself away from that. Even though like it helped me in that moment with positive thinking and the meditation and stuff, I kind of moved away from that and I focused on the health stuff. And then in that second year of my business, when I was divinely guided, I feel, by the universe to connect with my coach, and I started learning from her and practicing those things that she was helping me with, that's when I kind of got back on that path again and even more strongly than ever.
1 second. How did she help you do that? What did she do?
So what she really did for me in the beginning was I was inviting people to my Facebook group to teach, and she was going to do her psychic stuff. I had seen her before, but she had never announced herself as a psychic. It was like, I don't know, psychic marketing or like business marketing or something like that. And when she changed to psychic, I was like, ooh, I want to know what this is about. So she came into my group, she taught, I really enjoyed her teaching. And at the end, she did a channeling. And in this channeling, psychic channeling is just like whatever information you receive, you give it to the person. So she said she had seen a vision of me. My younger inner child was like angry, carrying a wagon full of stuff and everything. And I was like, this lady is crazy. She doesn't know what she's talking about, because I'm not an angry person. I'm a happy person. I worked hard to become a happy person. I started changing my mind, my thoughts and stuff like years ago. And so I was in denial, which is what most people do. Like, they don't realize that they have a lot of deep things underneath the surface that are still troubling them. And so that's where I was at. So, but I was still curious enough to like want to know more. And so I started following her, and I think she did like some kind of challenge thing where she helped us to go deeper into these things. And we did a kind of journey. And I believe up until that point, I had always believed that I had difficulty visualizing and like seeing things in meditation and stuff. So I had just kind of been like, whatever, you know, I never see anything, but I don't care. But she took me on a journey. And a shamanic journey is a kind of like meditation, but where the practitioner kind of helps you do energy work, and they help you shift things, and they help you see like the parts of your subconscious that you don't want to see, your shadows. And so that's part of it. And so we did a journey, and in this journey, I was able to like very clearly like see and sense certain things that really brought up all this rage out of me. And I was like so enraged by what I had seen and what was going on that I started like crying out of sheer anger. And then once, you know, it was all over and done with, I felt so much better. But that just really helped me to open my eyes to the fact that she was right all along, and that I did have all this anger built up inside of me that I wasn't aware of. And I needed her, or someone like her, to hold that space for me to be able to reveal that to myself. And so that made me really curious to want to explore more and dig deeper into myself and be like, well, what else do I have inside of myself that I'm not aware of that is probably affecting me? Because I didn't think that I had these issues, but I did. And maybe that's affecting why like I'm not getting the results that I want, no matter how hard I try and what I do.
Okay, and can you explain for people who are not so much spiritual or woo-woo or whatever, how spirituality comes together with the subconscious mind?
So, you know, I've learned from a few people and stuff. I don't actively read people's books and follow their teachings so much, but what I've learned to a certain extent from watching some things and from my own understanding is that for me, the subconscious is a way for me at least, the way I see it is it has like two roles. So on the one role, it houses all the experiences and the beliefs and the information from your human ego self, right? These are the beliefs that you don't know, that you're not aware that you have a lot of times. And so these things can quite often limit you. If you're programmed with a lot of negativity, you will do things unconsciously because that's what's stored in like the computer of your mind. So to a certain extent, that's like one role of the subconscious, is the way I see it. And then the other role as well is it connects you to the divine spiritual aspect of you, that aspect of you that you're not aware of. That's kind of like, I wouldn't say outside of you, but you're just not consciously aware that you have this connection with you. And sometimes your higher self or the spiritual aspect of you can send you information through that part of you to help you in some kind of way. It could be in the form of maybe like giving you a past life memory or a current life memory that you don't even remember. Like, I don't know if people watch Red Table Talk on Facebook, Jada Pinkett Smith's show, but she shared how this singer, rapper person, Common, a few years ago in some kind of event or whatever, had like a flashback memory of being molested as a young boy. And this came out of nowhere. Now that memory was stored in the subconscious, like all your experiences and stuff stored in your subconscious. But at the same time, I feel like, why did that memory pop in his mind out of nowhere all of a sudden, right? Why right now? And I feel like that's the higher aspect of him, or the divine aspect of him, trying to give him that next step to help him see like, hey, you need to process this to move forward so that you can get the things that you want, so that you can truly be happy, so that you can release these things and so on. So now's the time, you're ready. Here you go. This is the next piece of the puzzle. Do this. And so because of that memory and stuff, he started seeking help and all these other things, and he's on a better path now in his life. So I feel like it's, for me at least, it's a combination of these two things working simultaneously.
And when people come to you, like your clients, what kind of techniques do you do with them? How do you help them to get more into their subconscious, or also perhaps if they're not as spiritual, how to open them up to something? How do you do that?
Yeah, so people come to me at different levels of like their spiritual journey. Some people are really open. Those are like the psychics and the intuitives and stuff that I work with. And then other people are very curious, but they're not deep into that stuff. And so for those people, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to visualize or to tap into their emotions. But what I do personally is I either help them to do journeys. So that's like the energy work with the meditation. And I help them to relax enough to be able to see things, feel things, sense things. And they're able to like remember things or feel what they need to feel to process that stuff and move forward. But if not, I start them out small to help them get comfortable with that, because I wasn't always very comfortable with like feeling my emotions either and visualizing certain things either. It took a bit of a process for me to get there as well. And so what I would start them out with is just like journaling and just being like, what does this bring up for you, this memory? Like, just write it out. Whatever comes to you through you, just like let it be okay. Don't try to judge it. Don't try to allow your mind to tell you what you're supposed to think about it or feel about it or whatever. Just be open to it and just write to your heart's content whatever comes up. And if they have some trouble with that, then I help them to dig deeper into like why they're actually like holding themselves back from being able to move forward, because that's them blocking themselves on some level. But I basically just gradually introduce people to these spiritual teachings depending on what they need, where they're at, what they need understanding around at that time, because there's so many different things to learn about in regards to spirituality that to try to tell one person all at once can be very overwhelming and confusing. And so I think it's really important to just kind of like ease your way into spirituality and just whatever grabs your attention in that moment, like learn as much as you want and can about that. And then whenever something else grabs your attention, do that, because otherwise it's just so much information that might not make any sense to you. And because it doesn't make any sense to you, you get frustrated with it or you just don't believe it at all. And if you don't believe it at all, that's okay. You know, it's part of your path in that moment. Like currently I'm with someone, I'm dating someone who's not spiritual at all. And sometimes, like recently, they started asking me some questions about spirituality. And I, in the past, you know, because I'm just like so in it, I would just speak about it. And they're like, you're talking to me as if I know about these things already. And I'm like, sorry. So now I try to break it down as much as I can and like remember, like I'm with a beginner here, so try to ease that person into it and understand like they don't know all of this terminology or they don't have maybe all of this information on this topic. Maybe they just know a little bit. So just gradually work your way into it as you feel called to, and then understand that quite often a topic will have deeper layers to it, but you're ready for a certain layer of that at that moment. And then maybe later on you'll understand it on a deeper level.
Okay, and let us know how you're helping people. Like, what are their successes once they clear out those subconscious beliefs and once they start using their subconscious the way they're supposed to, maybe?
Yeah, so like I really help people, especially with things around money and relationships a lot, and business. Those are like the three core things that my clients have, that we focus on mainly, that they have the most success around. So I help women who don't even have jobs. For example, you know, they get the money to work with me because family members or whoever helped them out, or they put it on a credit card or something. And then even though they don't maybe have a job, they still end up manifesting tons and tons of money or gifts, thousands of dollars worth in gifts and so on, just because they were able to like rewrite their beliefs and to not continue to limit themselves and to be more open to the spiritual teachings that I had to share with them around, you know, not needing to control the process and all these things in order to manifest. And so I've had plenty of women that were jobless or like single moms with no income manifest tons of money because of that, opportunities, vacations. I've had one of my clients, she didn't have a job and she didn't really have main sources of income. And somehow by the end of one of my programs, she manifested, I think, over $12,000. And then she also had like this limiting belief and fear of becoming location independent and selling her home and stuff. So we helped her process that, selling her home, and so that she could actually sell it and get the price that she wanted for it. And so she went ahead and was able to do that, and now she's traveling and she's really happy and stuff. I've had clients who didn't, like there's this one woman who took a program of mine recently that was not related to really like manifesting. It was more related to like dealing with personal issues, because your reality, for me at least, is a reflection of what you hold within yourself, and what you hold within yourself is a lot of your personal stuff from the past you haven't addressed. And this one client, even though like the focus of that was just like working on herself, because she worked on herself after like, I think she said 2.5 years, she finally manifested a client because of doing that personal development work. And she finally was like, I've worked with like 3 other coaches before you, and I've never been able to like get these kinds of results. And because of like what you've taught me, I've been able to finally like get a client. I'm really happy and excited. And then I've had clients that, they manifest uncomfortable situations with children, with their partners, their spouses, or with their families. And because they do this personal development work, they are able to bring that into alignment so that they can have actually loving, harmonious, supportive relationships with these people. And it was all because they shifted inside of themselves.
So tell us a little bit about your beliefs that you had to shift, because I met you when you were not location dependent. Now you are, and your business is thriving. You have a relationship now. So what beliefs did you overcome? How did you do it? And do you take yourself on journeys? Can you do that yourself?
So I do take myself on journeys. I take them as often as I feel like I need to, which is not as often as in the past. In the past, early in my personal development journey, I did them like as much as possible all the time, because I was like, man, I got all these things I got to get out. And I was getting triggered all the time. Like that's highly indicative that you have a lot of personal shifting you have to do, or what people commonly refer to as healing, is when you're getting triggered, when you're getting in any kind of way, because trigger, I think most people associate that with being angered. It's not just being angered. It's something like makes you insecure, something makes you sad, something makes you frustrated. Like these are the triggers. And so I was getting triggered left, right, all like center, front and center all the time. And so I was like, oh no, I got some stuff I got to release. I got to release this. And I would do that. So I don't do it as often now because I've cleared a good chunk of my things. And as far as limiting beliefs and things, I had to release tons and tons of beliefs, because and this has been in the making maybe the last 2.5 years unconsciously. Back into December 2017, I went on a trip in Costa Rica, and that was very stressful for me, because it was my dream to be able to like travel the world and work from wherever. And then I finally got that. And then once I was there, I was like, no, I have to be on the computer. I have to be posting these things. Like, no. And then it's like, Stephanie, you wanted to be able to come to a beautiful place and enjoy it. And now you're here and you're not enjoying it because you are stressed out, because you think you need to be doing these things. And so I had to address a lot of things around, working hard, visibility, scarcity, a lot of things related to that. Like, oh, if I don't show up for a week, people are going to forget about me. My business is going to crash. I'm not going to move forward. I'm not going to get the money that I want, etc. Like I had to release a lot of those beliefs back then to prepare myself. And then in August 2018, I went to Europe, and then I had to release another set of beliefs, because then by then I was like a lot busier, more successful. And then it was like a lot of things around managing my time and being able to handle it all, and so on and so forth. And that was stressing me out. And I had to release all of that in order to understand, like, I can have the location independent experience I want. And it doesn't have to be stressful for me, just because some people who have businesses create that in their experiences, because you see things a lot of times online about people being stressed out because they don't have Wi-Fi, because, someone canceled their Airbnb thing because of whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, they're creating that shit in their reality. And so I'm not going to create that in my reality, and I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm going to have what I want, and I'm going to clear the beliefs around that to be able to get that. So that's what I started doing to prepare myself to be able to do this. And as far as the relationship goes, that was another set of things as well. I had to release a lot of emotional stuff from past relationships, from my relationships with my parents, to prepare me for that. And one of the things that when I really started feeling this was, I think, around November, October of last year, 2018, where I kept getting triggered by men, and I was living in Peru at the time. And so men would like sexually harass me, and I would get so angry, or they would try to like sweet talk to me, and I already knew what their intentions were, and I would get so triggered. I'm like, who do they think I am, that I'm stupid? I know what they're trying to do. I was getting so triggered, and I had to like really process all of that. And then I met someone, because I prepared myself enough to meet someone. And when I met that person, it was also another like can of worms that I had to like process, because that person brought like all my fears and things that I didn't know I had in myself for a really long time to the surface. And one of those things was especially like in regards to my father. I thought I had released a lot of things around my father at the time, because we had been getting along well and all this other stuff. But then when I did journeys and stuff with this, like connected to this person, it turned out that I had a lot of fear of Latino men, especially because of having grown up with physical abuse at home by my father. And that was one of the reasons why I attracted such a toxic individual in that moment, to bring this up to my awareness so I could understand like, oh, I need to process this and let this go. And so I did that with that person. And, you know, because I had been working on this whole time, I eventually prepared myself enough to be able to manifest someone in my life now who is also teaching me a lot of things, but is also very good to me, very supportive, very loving. And so now everything seems to be going so well.
That's great. I'm so happy for you. And did you do a lot of this with a coach as well, who's helping you? Or do you do most of it by yourself?
No, I did most of it by myself because, yeah, I did most of it by myself, some of it with the help of my coach, and then some of it with just like myself. Like I had to figure that out. And I'm, you know, advanced enough in what I do where I can just figure it out for myself. So, and that's the whole point of like, I think working with a coach is unrelated, I think, but I don't know, is like what I was, you know, taught by my own mentor, and what I believe in myself is like, we're not here to create codependency. We're here to create independent individuals, you know, who understand that they have the power within themselves. They have all the answers within themselves, and they can figure it out themselves. But sometimes we need someone to kind of guide us along the way until we remember our own power. And so I, by that level, could handle my own stuff. And that's what I try to teach people as well to do for themselves.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with you. Seriously. So let's get into that a little bit. How or when did you know that you were ready to handle stuff on your own?
Oh, like I've always had to handle throughout this whole journey things on my own without necessarily the help of my coach, because yeah, she's not going to be someone I run to every 2 seconds when I have a new problem, and like I'm going to message her and fill her message, you know, her inbox with like my questions. And so I had to really, you know, try to do that on my own, like always try to figure out the answer on my own. And if I can't figure it out, then I would reach out to her and be like, listen, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. Can you help me? Because she's also psychic as well. So she would then help me, but it's more of that. And I try to tell my own clients that as well. It's like, you do your part with everything that you know to figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, then come to me. But I don't want you to think like, oh my God, I can't figure it out. I have to like immediately go to Steph to help me out, because then that just creates a bad pattern, that habit that disempowers you. You want to try to regain your power. Regaining your power is you trying to do it on your own. And so I've been doing this for a really long time, because when I come to my sessions with my coach, I'm not currently working with her right now, but like when I would work with her, I would have her help me out with things that I was going through up until the moment of the session that I needed guidance around. But then from after that session to the next session, a whole set of new things might come up. And I wasn't going to really run to her for that. I would have to try to like figure it out on my own during that time until I could see her again and be like, hey, so this is what's new, and this is what I've been trying, and this is what's been going on. So I've been practicing that for a really long time, just because as well, like I am a very independent individual and I like figuring out my stuff myself. And that's really helped me to just become very independent very quickly, and to make the most out of this whole personal development journey.
I would also like people to know your backstory, because for me it's amazing, and it's incredible. So if you don't mind sharing that would be great. And then also how you got out of that, because basically, yeah, like I would say you lost everything, right? And then you had to build a completely new life. And how did you get yourself to do it?
Yeah, so basically, I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible, but I was born in Peru. I lived there till I was about 4, and then I immigrated to the US with my mom at that time. My dad had already been there a year prior, and my parents were there in search of the American dream. During that time, that entire time, I grew up with physical abuse at home. My dad was very physically abusive towards me, my brothers, my mom. And when I was 13, my mom had enough, and she finally stood in her power and said no more, and ended the relationship with my dad. So from that time, my parents separated. My mom became a single mom of 3. and was doing her best to support all of us. And because of her salary, she wasn't able to maintain the costs of our lifestyle. So we ended up losing our home. We ended up losing our car. Those things got repossessed or foreclosed. And we had to move from like a nice middle class neighborhood to a lower like house that we rented or whatever. And then we started from there. When I was 14, so the next year, and I wanted to get my driver's permit, I learned that I was there as an undocumented immigrant because my parents had apparently lost their legal status in the US around the time I was 7 or something. And so that's when this whole topic of immigration became, it came into my awareness because as a kid, I didn't think about that stuff. I just thought I was a normal kid. Like I was like, yeah, I'm Peruvian, but I'm also American. So, and so that's when I became aware of that. And that's when my whole world kind of came crashing down for me for the first time, maybe, or the second time, I don't know, like my parents, their marriage dissolving, even though it wasn't the best relationship, but you still want your parents together. So that was like the first time. The second time was this. And I understood that I had no future. Like that's what I thought in my mind. Like I have no future. My dad especially had been preparing me for like this dream life to be a business professional and to go to this great university. And that's why I've been busting my butt since I can remember to get the best grades and be a really great student. And now this was all worth nothing. And so I had a bit of a crisis there. And then teen rebellion and all the things. I managed to survive high school and graduate because I wanted to drop out because I just didn't see the point of it. But I graduated, and then I graduated just feeling like, what am I going to do with my life now? Like, what's going to happen to me? Because now I can't really go get an education because I don't have these legal papers, and I can't go to Peru because I don't know what to expect in Peru, and it's going to be worse for me over there because I don't have higher education. And so about a year out or so, I feel I manifested my deportation. And I had immigration show up at my house. And long story short, they basically sat me and my mom down and told us that we had roughly almost a year to get our affairs in order to go back to Peru. So then I thought, okay, the decision has been made. I have to go to Peru now. And even though it wasn't the best thing for me in that moment, like I didn't feel good about it in the moment, at the same time I felt a bit of relief because I'm like, okay, now I have to leave Peru. And because I had been feeling so frustrated for so long by then that I wasn't like a normal kid like everyone else, that I couldn't get, a regular ID to be able to go to clubs with my friends. I couldn't get a driver's license to drive legally. I couldn't, I didn't have the documentation to work legally. I couldn't travel. I couldn't go to university with all my friends. Like all my friends were like doing the thing, and I felt like I had been left behind. And so I was feeling so frustrated and like such a prisoner in my situation. And it kind of felt like a bit of a relief to be like, okay, well now I won't have to like watch my back. I will be able to work legally somehow, in something, and so on and so forth. I'll be able to do all the things that I can't do here. And so that's what we did. We started the process of that. I came back to Peru in September 2019, and I
Wait, you said 2019?
I'm sorry, 2009, sorry. September 2009. It's been almost 10 years. So, and so then I started from zero. I had a few $1,000s in savings, not much, maybe like, almost 3 or something thousand. I don't even remember. And at the beginning, I was staying with relatives for like 2.5 months, and then I moved out on my own once I got my bearings around the area. It was a big culture shock for me, and just a shock in general because I had grown up in a small kind of like city, and then all of a sudden I came into like this big city, and it was like noisy and all these things were happening, and I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. I couldn't survive New York when I visited. Like, how am I going to survive this? But I survived, and I was blessed to have the opportunity to be trained as an English teacher by this company, and that's what helped me to kind of start making some money there and understanding like I could move forward. But basically I came back to Peru by myself, and I started from zero. I didn't have a home to come to, like as far as like my family, like my direct family, my parents and stuff. No, I had to, pay my rent and pay for my food and pay for all these things by myself, and just kind of, get myself going at 20 years old and just figure it out somehow. And that's what I did. And luckily, because of the English teaching stuff, I was able to eventually 3 years later, like start working as a private teacher. So I started making a lot more money than what they were paying me. And I was able to experience for the first time what it can be like to have like an abundant lifestyle and not work your butt off. And I was just like amazed because at the time I think I was like 23, 24 years old or something, and I was making like more money than my relative, my uncle, who has like all this education and all this stuff. And I was like working very few hours, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then that eventually led me to doing YouTube stuff and then doing the online coaching stuff.
Beautiful. Thank you for explaining all of that to us. And you said you manifested your deportation. So you are a big believer in everybody's creating their own reality with their thoughts, correct? And how do you explain to people, what's your point of view when people are saying, yeah, did I manifest, for example, getting raped? Did I manifest getting beaten, you know, like with your dad? Do you manifest as a kid? Like, what's your explanation for people?
So that has to do with deeper spiritual teachings, but I believe at least that before we incarnate, we already kind of know what to expect. We already know what we're going to go through. And then when we come here, we forget that, because if you remembered, it wouldn't have the same effect. You would be like, oh yeah, this is part of the plan, no worries. And so you have to go through those experiences to have the whatever it's emotional experiences or whatever you need to have around that, so that you can then learn from that to become the highest version of you. And so, yeah, you know, I teach about this a lot in my program, but there's a lot of crap things or difficult things or horrific things that happen in the world, but at least it's my firm belief. And some people disagree with this. Some people are very adamant that they don't believe in this, that that's like placing blame on the victim and so on and so forth. And if that's your belief, like, by all means, keep believing that. That's what, you know, works for you. But I feel like it's very empowering for someone to take personal responsibility to a certain extent over the fact that, okay, on some level, I planned this, on some level I created this, because you're not gonna experience things that you're not a match for. At least it's all energy. It's all just, you know, you're putting out a signal, like a radio signal to the universe, and the universe is picking up your signal and it's transmitting that music, and that music is in the form of this physical manifestation. And so I had been, like I said, so miserable and depressed about my situation in the US for such a long time that I just wanted a solution. I wanted a way out, but I didn't think I had a way out. And I had been putting that signal out for so long and so strongly that the universe was like, okay, here you go. Here is a match for what you are asking for. And it may not have shown up in the way I wanted it to, maybe, but it showed up in the way in which I was a match for it. And so when it comes to like things around rape and so on, what I like to explain to my clients, especially around those kind of very difficult things, is that, you know, yeah, you may see that as a horrifying experience, and it is, but you have to see the higher perspective around that. You have to see the bigger picture around that. And it could be that that difficult experience for that person that really traumatizes them holds them back for a little bit. It may affect them negatively for a while. They may become depressed and have all these negative thoughts and so on and so forth. But then at some point, what if they decide to find the light? What if they decide to seek help? What if they start taking those action steps to get out of that, to overcome that, to forgive the person who hurt them, to want to help other people in overcoming this kind of experience? And so they go ahead and they do that. They start setting some kind of like organization or something to help people or to raise awareness in something. Like, that's the bigger picture around that one bad thing, because there's always, it's like two sides of the coin. You have darkness and light, you have good and bad. And so the bad thing, in quotes, is that they were raped, but the good that came out of that is all of these other things that this person is doing to help others. And so that's the bigger picture around that.
I love that. I just got goosebumps. So let's say somebody is really depressed or in their thoughts or whatever. What tips would you give them? What advice would you give them if they want to be happy? What do they need to work on? How can they work on it? Like, with your experience and with your teachings, what would you recommend to them?
Yeah, I think depression and anxiety are two things that are becoming heavily prevalent in today's world, because from a spiritual standpoint, we're going through a process of spiritual evolution, of spiritual ascension, as it's known, where we're evolving in our consciousness. So we are becoming, beings that are more deeply connected to our spiritual truths, basically. We're shifting from like our kind of human way of seeing things to a more elevated spiritual way of seeing things. And so the more elevated you go, the higher your energy is, the more light you contain, and the more love that you become. You become love. You become this amazing, loving being who's connected to their truth. And so this process that we're going on, from shifting to like normal human to like elevated spiritual being, this is the process of ascension here that we're going through. And as you're elevating that to that level, to that higher level, like I said, your energy's higher, you hold more light. So you cannot hold on to things that are weighing you down. You cannot hold on to things that are making you heavy. And a lot of those things are the limiting beliefs, the fears, and the past emotional stuff that you're unconsciously holding on to, or even consciously holding on to. Because we all know those people that they clearly hold grudges against certain people. They're bitter, they're resentful. So we know those people that are consciously holding on to things. But then there are people like me, you know, who didn't have any awareness around the fact that, like, I was angry. I was like crazy angry at certain people in my family. And so when you're holding on to those things, those are the things that are making you, you know, not be able to hold as much light, be at a lower vibration, be at a lower level of consciousness, and it's making you more dense. It's weighing you down. And so right now, because we're going through this process, there are gonna continue to be energies that continue to come in to try to raise you up higher. And as that happens, you're gonna have to release all of these things, whether you want to or not. And so if you don't release them because either you're resistant to them or because maybe you're just not aware and you don't know how, then it's going to oftentimes manifest in depression, in anxiety, in all of these low vibrational states, which is what I see a lot of people, like so many people are anxious today or depressed today. It's crazy. It's like the new allergy. Like nobody used to have allergies, and now everyone has allergies to like every single thing. No one used to be depressed or anxious, or maybe back in the day, maybe they didn't report it as much, but now it seems like everyone is depressed and anxious on some level. People don't know how to like manage their emotions and how to get to the bottom of what's truly causing that depression and anxiety. So I teach people how to get to the root cause of things. I don't teach management of things. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I'm not trying to bash anyone's work who may help people to manage their depression or manage their anxiety, because I think that it's part of the process, it's part of the journey. It's that little step that you need to take forward. But at some point for most people, those management tools don't work anymore. They stop working. It's kind of like in the way in which you take a drug and then the drug doesn't work as much, so you need to increase the doses and increase it and increase it. So at some point, the stuff inside of you is going to get to a point where all of your tools and techniques are not going to work for you anymore because it's so built up inside of you. You need to release it. So how do you start releasing it? You get help in some way that resonates with you to process those things that you need to process. That could be going to a psychologist of some kind. That could be doing hypnotherapy. That could be working with some kind of psychic and doing a shamanic journey. Whatever method resonates for you, like find the method that works for you to process these things, because they need to be released. And so that's what I recommend to people. Journaling might help people to start with, you know, journaling about their emotions, journaling about a past moment in their life that really hurt them, you know, but the point is that you have to get it out of you some way, somehow. So find the way that resonates the best with you at this time. And if one way doesn't resonate with you in particular, it doesn't mean that you should stop seeking help. It means that you just need to keep your search of trying to find someone that can help you in the way that really connects with you and really just makes you feel like I can do this way. So that's what I recommend to people, because everyone is different. And so we all have to find the path that works for us. And that's why we have an infinite number of teachers and an infinite number of like modalities and things, because we all need to find what works for us. But the point is that we all need to process this stuff at this time, because it's just going to feel more and more intense.
Absolutely. And so what's next for you? What's going on in your life? What's next for you? What are the next steps?
So I became officially location independent May 31st, 2019.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was a long time coming, I feel, but I finally did it. And so right now I've been in Mexico for 3 weeks now, and I'm going to be in Mexico for another couple months. I don't know what to expect from my travels in Mexico, but I just know that I'm going to keep doing my thing and I'm going to keep traveling the world. So it's my intention to do more in-person events now, and to be able to go to the many different places where people follow me, to meet with them, to teach something live there, to move forward with bigger projects that I have in mind of doing this next year. So things like maybe writing a book and getting my stuff together on a bigger level so I can make a bigger impact. So doing more YouTube videos, getting a handle of the social media stuff more than anything, so I can help more people. That's what I want to do.
Sounds great. And that just brings me to something. I know you were at a JoeDispenza Retreat. How was that? Are you recommending it? What changed for you? What did you learn?
Okay, so personally, like I had only really heard of Joe Dispenza in a few YouTube videos or documentaries years ago, and I didn't actively follow his work. I have never read any of his books and any of that stuff. But I really, when I found out he was coming and it was right before I was leaving for Lima, I was like, I have to go because this is the environment I want to be in, especially like as a person who believes in energy and manifesting. This is the environment I want to be in before I leave for Mexico. So I went, and there were some videos I had to watch, which I wasn't able to watch, like, but I tried. And then when I got there, I was like, okay, hopefully I know enough about, the subconscious mind and, beliefs and creating your reality to be able to like keep up with him. And I did, I was able to like keep up with everything he was saying. And I really enjoyed it because, a lot of times when it comes to knowing about a certain topic, sometimes there are people that have so much ego that they think that they can't really learn anything new from someone else. And so they're like, no, why am I going to go? That's wasting my money and time. Like I already know everything on that. And I try to be very open-minded with that and just be like, well, maybe he's going to give me a different perspective or something that I might need to hear, even if it's just like one thing that I might need to hear that's going to help me. And so what I did was I still signed up for it. I went with an open mind, and I really loved how he explained basically everything that I am about and what I do, but from a very scientific perspective, because he's a doctor, because he's had people research, because he shows you, with this and that, and he has like tons and tons of testimonials from 30 plus years of work that he's done in this kind of thing. And so I really liked the fact that he was just basically validating all the like spiritual woo stuff, in quotes, that I say, but with science and the science behind it, and really understanding that, because for my logical mind, even though I'm very much in the spiritual stuff, I'm very much not like woo out there. I'm like, I need processes. I need to understand the like mechanics of it, the logical workings of it. I'm very practical in that sense. And so I teach spirituality, but from a practical kind of way. And so really hearing him explain it in that way just really helped me to be stronger in what I believe in, to know that that was, how we really do create our realities and how we go about it. And learn a few practices that maybe I can practice, myself to do. But what really helped me a lot in that workshop was the fact that he had been talking about people going to some of his like in-person events, like week-long events or something, and they'll have like, instant healings in those events. And I was in a room with 1,200 people in this workshop, and I was like, the energy here is really strong. Like all of these people are sitting here focusing, meditating on certain things, and this is going to elevate my own stuff that I'm focusing on at this time. And so when he was talking to us about these people having instantaneous healings in his events, I was like, okay, this is going to maybe help me in some kind of way, because the week before that I had suffered a rollerblading injury, and I had fallen really hard on my coccyx, like the lower part of my base of my spine, and I had been in pain for the last week. And I tried 2 days to take medication, which I never take medication, but my partner convinced me to. So I was like, I'll do it for you. Take this medication. It still didn't, fix the problem because it was a big fall. And so I was in pain, and I was moving that week, and I was trying not to lift heavy things, but I had to. And so we get to the event on Friday night, and I was sitting in the chair for 2 hours, and I was really uncomfortable sitting up straight because it really hurt. And then Saturday rolls around, and we're in this place for like almost 12 hours. And I was like having to kind of move my body around a lot in the chair because it was really uncomfortable for me. And we did like 2 or 3 meditations that day. And so by the end of the day, when I finally get back to my place, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm like, oh my God, this really, really hurts. Like, I don't want to walk anymore. I just want to like lay down and rest. And hopefully I get through Sunday, the last day of the workshop. And then I wake up Sunday morning and I feel so much better. Like, I feel like that pain has been like lifted for the most part. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I feel better. Oh my God, what if the meditations that we did on Saturday helped out with this? And so then I go to the event on Sunday, and we're there for almost 12 hours, and we're doing like one meditation after the other. I think we did like 3 or 4, and each one was about an hour long. And with every single meditation, I kid you not, like I kept feeling better and better in my lower back, coccyx area. Like I just kept feeling like the pain was disappearing, and it was disappearing, and it was disappearing some more. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And like, his big thing is like you can create your health, you can create whatever you want because you're the creator of your reality, because he helped himself through a really intense injury. And it's like sometimes it's those things that you kind of have to experience for yourself to like believe it. And I already believe in this stuff, but like just experiencing that on that deeper level really helped me see like, wow, like energy is everything. Energy is how we create everything, and it's up to us to be able to develop the self-mastery enough to handle our energy and manage it in the way in which we want it to, so that we can have the health that we want, so we can have the relationships we want, the abundance we want, and so on and so forth. And what affects your energy is a lot of times all of that stuff that you hold within yourself, like the emotional baggage, the limiting beliefs, the fears, all of that affects your energy. And you have to have a high level of mastery of yourself to get those things in check or under control and release what you need to release in order to have the energy that will allow for you to experience, the healing or whatever it is that you want.
That is incredible. That is incredible. And I agree, like for him reading, I read his book recently. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, for anybody who wants to check it out. And also I believed in his stuff before, but also from a more spiritual perspective. And now I got all the science to it and I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy and amazing. And I find it incredible how people are healing themselves from warts on their hands, from cancer, from your spinal injury. It's just incredible how powerful our thoughts are, and definitely manifesting a retreat with him, let's say for 2020. Yeah. I think I'll do that. Yeah. I love it. Thank you for explaining that. And then how can our audience find you? And I know you give away a lot of free stuff and you do all those kinds of readings. Just please let us know about all of that. And yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so I recently got back on Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram as Stefan Tora Coaching. I'm also on YouTube as Stefan Tora Coaching. I teach on YouTube once a week on Fridays live. So I do a live stream. So if you're able to join me live, then you can ask any questions while I'm there live and I answer them in the video, or I can just respond to you in the comments. You can also find me on Facebook on my business page as Stefan Tora Coaching. And there I teach as well, usually once a week or so, and I share posts and things like that. And I have a Facebook group currently called Divine Creation. The name might change in the future. So if it does and you can't find it, you can always go to my Facebook business page, and I'm sure there will be a link somewhere there to it. And that's basically where you can find me is, my Facebook group, Facebook business page, Instagram, and YouTube. Those are the places where I try to be present in and active in. And Instagram is where I try to share like what I'm doing in my travels and real life. So
great. We will link to all of that in the podcast notes, of course. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your stories. I loved it. It was a great interview. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you wanting to interview me. I really hope that I was able to provide value to whoever, may need this at this moment, and help them to kind of start opening up to maybe spirituality, to opening up to maybe doing mindset, wanting to learn about how they can heal themselves or just get whatever outcome that they want. You really are a great creator of your life, but you have to do your part to make that possible. So I really hope I have been able to inspire someone in some kind of way to take one path forward that will help them to achieve their dream life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steph.
Yeah, thank you.
Love this episode of Mind Your Subconscious? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review on whichever platform you're listening. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Catch our next episode every Monday.